Friday at 11:04. Well, we're a minute early, but I'm waiting on the Sheriff to get off the phone. He's getting some information right now, and we'll have Sheriff Derek Palmer on the radio with us here in just a moment as soon as he gathers some information. But we do want to say happy Friday to you, and we hope you are having a great day. It's going to be warm out there today, possibly up to around 92 degrees. So if you're outside, make sure you're drinking plenty of water, finding shady spots, know the signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and all those things to stay healthy and happy. It's one of those jobs I couldn't imagine being on a roof nailing down shingles today. That'd just be a very hot job today. So make sure to take care of yourself. Wear light and loose clothing, and just be careful out there in the heat. And even if you're indoors, if nothing else, please just have a fan circulating some air to make sure that you are safe and healthy on these hot days, because it's going to be hot but especially today it looks like. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
You hit the microphone right when you hit the button. I'm doing well this morning.
Derek brought his own sound effects.
I did. Dong.
Yeah.
There you go.
They'll have to turn that one off.
Yeah.
So how is the sheriff on this fine Friday? You staying
busy today. I've been at the office, I think, a total of like 10 minutes today, so it's been a busy morning. Got a lot of stuff going on.
All right. Well, there's this rumor about you jumping out of an airplane. Can I confirm that live on the radio?
I have a crazy friend who wants to jump out of a plane, and they're trying to get me to do it, and I'm just not feeling it.
I bet we could probably take a survey of people to vote for that to happen or something. But
I was thinking maybe later on if we can do some kind of charity event or something that might be worth jumping out of a plane, I might do that. But I don't see myself just jumping out of it for fun, because I can assure you it won't be fun.
By the way, folks, I'm his crazy friend. I've been trying to get him for a week or so. We started talking about this after the show last week, and Derek's like, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope, not going to do it.
A perfectly good running plane.
Yeah, he's kind of about talked me into it now, though, if we got a good reason to do it. So
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. If I can survive without having a heart attack or something of that nature, I might do it. I don't know.
Yeah, he sent me a message on Facebook saying, I think you're trying to give me a heart attack, because I sent him a picture of two people jumping out of a plane, and you said the jumping part didn't bother you.
No, it's the sudden stop. It's the landing.
that landing part. Yeah. So we'll do that one day. We'll have fun.
Yeah, we may get that accomplished one of these days. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I might could do it and get somebody to stand in my place. I don't know. Tim said he wanted, before he died, to jump out of an airplane. And I said, yeah, but I don't want that to be the last thing you do before you die.
That should not be the cause of death.
Right.
All right. We have a lot to talk about today,
yes.
And let's just hop right into it. We have first of all, go ahead and tell us about the wall that's coming.
Yeah, we have, we're going to start announcing this now. We've talked about it a little bit before, but in October 5th through the 9th, at the Band of Brothers Veterans Park, we actually have the moving Vietnam Memorial Wall that's coming. We've been working hard. We've been setting up a foundation for it down there, and there's some certain things we have to do. We have to provide certain logistical things. It has to be a certain place, and it has to be done a certain way, and we have to have guards on it, and just certain things to bring that respect and dignity and honor to that as those names are being transported around the country. And so we're in the process of doing that, and it will be here on October 5th, and it'll be here 5th through the 9th at the Band of Brothers Veterans Park there on Carriage Lane in Murphy. I think that's 430 Carriage Lane. It's Roger and Pat Swanson's property down there. And they have spent a lot of time and effort and energy on different things on that property as far as equipment. And, there's some aircraft down there. There's some old military vehicles. There's just all kind of different nostalgia and historical things down there. So
it is impressive. I haven't been there in person.
Yeah.
You sent me pictures from you had the event there last year.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do again this year. We're going to have a Veterans memorial event down there. We're going to do it. I know Veterans Day is not until November, but typically it gets a little bit colder in November, so that's why we do it in October. So we're going to do this October 5th. It's first weekend in October. And like I say, this year the moving Vietnam Memorial Wall is going to be there. And so one of the things that Pat Swanson wanted me to announce is that they're in need of volunteers for that wall. And so they need people that will help those that are handicapped, maybe Vietnam veterans that are disabled, or other veterans, but or people that are disabled, but help them to get to the wall, to help find names on the wall for relatives or people that are looking for. Maybe do etchings. There's availability for paper and pencil to etch the name off the wall and those kind of things. So they just need volunteers that would be willing to come out and help them, help with the public for those 4 days that it's going to be there. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in coming and helping out with the wall and helping the public and helping people get to and from the wall and helping do etchings and finding names and things of that nature, if you could contact Pat at 3610943, and I'll say that again, 3610943. She has taken volunteer lists for people that would like to help with that. So you may be a veteran, you may be with a military family, you may not be a veteran yourself, but you would just like to help out, you would just like to do something in this event. And so if you'd just like to do something, just contact Pat, and she will she'll get you on the list there to help. And I'll give you that number again. It's 3610943. And if Tim won't let me forget, we'll announce it again there at the end of the show. So.
And if you also happen to miss this or miss it, your office usually posts these on Facebook.
We do.
Recording. So you can actually go and listen to all the archive shows there just by going to the Sheriff's Office Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Our shows are not only on our Facebook page, but it's also on YouTube. I'm not sure how Twitter and all that kind of stuff works because I'm not a Twitter person. I think I've talked about that before.
Right.
But it is on several pages. And so when me and Tim talk, our conversations are saved for posterity, I guess.
They completely unedited shows are there on YouTube.
Yeah. And but they're there. So if you need to go back and get the number or anything like that, probably late this evening, generally sometime after lunch, 2 or 3 o'clock this evening, it'll be on the Facebook page. It'll be on YouTube.
Unless I forget to send it to Roger, which has happened a time.
Yeah, that has happened. It has happened. Forget to send it, and it might be the first of the week before it's on there. So
last time I forgot. I was out of town, and I just got a simple text message from Roger. Roger says "show?" ?
Right,
straight to the point.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, and Roger keeps track of all that stuff for us, and all the internet things, keeps it straightened out. I try to respond to a lot of the Facebook messages and our page messages and things of that nature, but I rely on Roger a lot sometimes to answer those things too. So we kind of double team it when people have questions, and sometimes I'll answer them, sometimes Roger will answer them, and we'll just kind of address those as they come up.
It can get overwhelming at times, can't it?
It can get very overwhelming at times, and I would like to do a whole lot more on social media. I'd like to post a lot more things and do all those kind of things, but like I say, I've been at the office 10 minutes today, so it gets overwhelming at times on trying to get everything done. So along those lines, I try to, every day when I come in, I try to return calls and answer emails and all those type of things. When I was on vacation a couple weeks ago, I think when I got back, I had like 700 emails, to respond to, plus all my messages and different things. So it's sometimes that can get overwhelming in itself. So if you've called and I've not returned your call, hopefully I've returned everybody's call. But if I see it, if I know it's there, I'll return it. If something fell through the cracks and you didn't get a call back, just call again, let the secretary know, and she'll take care of it, make sure that I give you a call back.
All right.
And it can get a little bit overwhelming. But on the October 5th day on the moving wall, this is kind of a partner thing between the Sheriff's Office and the Cherokee County School System, and of course the Band of Brothers Park there. And there's going to be different opening ceremonies. There's going to be refreshments and food, and there's going to be other things there. And you can make a monetary donation to that. But if you do make those donations payable to the Band of Brothers Veterans Park, and that's at P.O. Box 365 Murphy. So you can make those donations there, or you can drop those donations off to the Sheriff's Office to Mark Patterson or the Cherokee County School Superintendent's Office, and I'm not sure who's taking them up down there, but you can set those donations in different places. So they would appreciate, I'm sure, any donations you can give. It is an expense to bring the wall in. It's an expense to make sure, like I say, we've got to put guards on it. We've got to make sure it's protected. We've got to have it set up in a certain way, certain criteria. So there's some expenses involved in that. And we're happy to foot those expenses along with the school system and with the Band of Brothers Park. But we would appreciate any donations that you'd like to make to that. So just know that's available if you'd like to make those donations. The other thing that we've got going on right now that I want to make sure we get to before we move on to our other stuff in the show is we've had an incident yesterday evening and today, this morning. Yesterday's incident was in the Hiwassee Dam community. Today's was in the Caney Creek area. We have got a lady who we don't sure why, but she is acting very strangely. She is showing up in people's homes, just unannounced, just walking into people's homes, and she's not doing anything. She's not stealing anything. She's not being violent or anything like that. But she's not, you can obviously tell by her remarks and things she's making, she's not thinking clearly when she's doing that. And that was yesterday evening, and the same thing started happening this morning in the Caney Creek community. So we want to make sure everybody out there just kind of pay attention. This lady yesterday was driving a gray Kia Sedona van, and it has a tag number of Paul Edward Mary, PEM 9862. That's PEM 9862. That's a North Carolina tag. And this morning in the Caney Creek area, she was driving a blue Ford Explorer, CKS 2618. That's CKS 2618. She could be in either vehicle. She's got both vehicles registered to her name. Her name is Anna, and she is, like I say, just showing up and is not thinking clearly for whatever reason. We're not sure whether it's drug related, whether it's mental related, or whether it's medical related. But we sure would like to get in contact with this lady and find out what's going on with her and find out what the situation is. And like I say, she's not, to our knowledge to this point, she's not been doing anything violent. She's not been doing anything, stealing anything or anything like that. She's just showing up at people's houses, and showing up and just walking in.
Going inside.
Yeah, just walking in and maybe sitting down on the couch for a minute and talk that's not exactly coherent, and then just getting up and leaving, getting back in her car.
Is it through unlocked doors, or is there a forcible
No,
entry?
it's unlocked doors. And she, like I say, she's not done anything violent. She's not done anything that we know of at this point, unless something happened this morning. But she's not doing anything as far as damaging property or anything like that. A couple incidents yesterday. She was on a person's back porch and just sitting on the back porch. And when they confronted her, she just got back in her car and left. One incident, she walked into the house and went to the refrigerator and opened it and looked in it and went back to a chair and sat down for a few minutes and was talk that didn't make sense, and just got up and went back, got in her car and left. So, like I say, we're not really sure why. We don't know if it's a drug-related issue, if it's a mental-related issue, or a medical-related issue. It could be any of the three. And so, obviously, if there's something going on with her, we would like to get in contact with her and find out what's happening there. If you do see her, she shows up at your house, or you see these vehicles matching the description, please call the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office or dispatch at 835-3144 if it's not an emergency. Of course, if it is emergency, dial 911, and we'll get somebody there as soon as we can. It's one of those things that yesterday evening we had about 5 cars in the Hiwassee Dam community as this was going on. We were spread out everywhere, myself included, but it was just one of those things that by the time she left and got in her car and started down the road, and people would call and say this happened 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, she would be out of the area, and we was not able to find her at that point. So, like I say, if you have those type of things, just kind of be on the lookout for that. Right. And we would like for you to call while she's there, so that we could try to get there and see what's going on before she gets back on the highway again and leaves and we can't find her. So if at all possible, if she shows up at your house or is in a neighborhood, or you see one of these vehicles parked, either a gray Sedona, Kia Sedona van, or a blue Ford Explorer with a red-headed female in those vehicles, blonde or red-headed, please be sure and call.
Approximately how old?
I don't remember. I think she's probably, I'm guessing 40-ish, somewhere along there. She could be older than that. I looked yesterday, but to tell you the truth, I just don't remember her age. And but like I say, she's in the area somewhere, and she was obviously somewhere last night. Don't know where, but showed back up again this morning, kind of doing the same things this morning. So if you see that vehicle, either of those vehicles or this lady, or like I say, her first name's Anna, if you would just try to let the sheriff's office know so we can get in contact with her.
And you may want to keep your doors locked.
It probably wouldn't hurt.
Wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, wouldn't hurt. And like I say, she's not done anything violent to this point. But if there is a medical issue or drug-related or mental issue, you don't know what might happen the next time. So,
Right.
so if you're home alone, just kind of just keep your doors shut and locked unless you don't have air conditioning or something. And if you need to leave them open, this time of year people are canning and they want their doors and windows open, kind of thing. Just
Right.
just pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to vehicles coming down your driveway.
All right.
And
Let's see. We also need to talk about is it fentanyl?
fentanyl, yes.
Tell us what fentanyl is and why it's becoming more and more of a concern to your office.
Well, what has happened is we have, and it's not just here, but it's across the country. We have had drugs. There's an opioid. It's a synthetic heroin, a synthetic opioid called fentanyl, and it is prescribed. It is given by doctors for different reasons. Sometimes they have patches and things of that nature. You get fentanyl. You've probably heard of fentanyl patches, and they have different forms of it, liquid form and those type of things. But what's happening is people have taken this fentanyl and they're mixing it with other drugs, primarily heroin.
Okay.
You can mix it with other things. You can mix it with meth. You can mix it with marijuana. You can mix it with anything. But primarily, we're seeing it popping up in heroin use. We're repeatedly getting results back now from the lab on heroin that we've seized and sent off to the lab, having analyzed, come back testing positive for fentanyl. And the problem with fentanyl is when it's in its liquid form, and it is. I'm not an expert on this by any means, so some of this might be wrong, but it's to my knowledge. When it's in the liquid form or in the patch form, it's stable. It's not going to be a huge ordeal unless you administer it to yourself. If you place the patch on yourself or you inject yourself with the liquid or something like that. However, where it gets very dangerous is they have been drying it out into a powder form. And in the powder form is how they mix it with the heroin and mix it with the other stuff. The problem with the powder form is it can become airborne. You can ingest it just by simply breathing, just by being in the same area with it, inhaling it, things of that nature. Well, the problem with it is fentanyl, just by touching it, even in the liquid form or the patch form, the reason they make patches is you can just touch it with your hand. It'll soak through your skin, and then that's how it gets in the body. And so if you're not a drug user, you're not using drugs, you don't have a valid reason for opioids, you could actually overdose yourself and kill yourself. Couple stories, and not to try to drive anybody to a panic, but just to show you how dangerous it is. I saw on the World News yesterday, I'm not sure what state it was in, but there was a child in a pool in a pool area that walked over near the fence. There was some papers or some packages laying there. The child picked the paper up just to see what it was. It had fentanyl on it. That child overdosed and died at the pool. We had an incident in Ohio where there was an officer who seized heroin. He packaged the heroin up properly, put it in a bag, put it in evidence. He was walking back through the squad room. One of the other officers said, "Hey, you got something on your shirt?" There was a speck on his upper left corner of his shirt. He just reached over and flicked it with his finger. And when he flicked it, it became airborne. He inhaled it subsequently, and that officer overdosed and died right there on the spot. And
It's that strong.
it's that strong.
Wow.
That potent. And what happens is that even with latex gloves, latex won't stop it. Fentanyl will go through the latex. And so we are in the process now of making sure that we have all of our officers outfitted with nitrite gloves, and because supposedly they'll keep it from penetrating. Different search techniques, different search procedures, trying to protect our officers that are out there. And, if you come in contact with these needles laying around, unknown packages with powder, things of that nature, just simply picking it up could be dangerous. And so if you're dealing with anything like that, if you find anything like that, at least make sure you're in a well-ventilated area, outdoors or something of that nature. But just like the child at the pool, it was outdoors.
Right.
And just by picking it up, just by touching it, was enough for it to seep through the skin and overdose that child. So we are living in a day and time where we have to be very careful.
Yes.
We recovered a stolen vehicle this morning up in the Marble area, and we were looking around, and there's some different things on the ground. I told one of the officers there, there was some papers and some jugs and stuff laying around, and I said, I said, it's bad. That things are so bad that you're scared to even bend over and pick up a piece of paper off the ground or touch anything because you don't know what might be on it. And but that's the day and time we live in, and so we just want to put that PSA out there so people will understand this and be very, very careful. If you're in parks, if you're somewhere where you see drug paraphernalia laying around or you suspect it to be drug paraphernalia, the best thing to do is just don't touch it. Just report it. Let an officer come out and deal with that.
There have been pictures posted on social media on the local Murphy pages, just showing like, look what I found, and like in the middle of a store on a shelf, like 2 or 3 needles that were used. Yeah. So it can be anywhere.
Well, a couple things is these drug users and people that are using this stuff, first of all, are not thinking clearly. They're most of the time high on these things, so they're not thinking clearly. So they may lay something down temporarily, but forget they laid it down and then just leave it there. Yeah, that's why you see things like on store shelves, on benches and restaurants, things of that nature, because they lay it down and they just forget it, and because they're not thinking clearly. The other thing is, and what happens more often than not, is if they're in a store or they're in a restaurant and a law enforcement officer walks in, they may put something down to try to hide it,
right,
and then just walk away from it. So if you're at Walmart or if you're at a grocery store, somewhere like that, and they round an aisle and run into a police officer or someone they know is a police officer, they may reach in their pocket and take these needles out and lay it on the shelf.
Get rid of the evidence.
Just to get rid of it. So if he stops me, they could have warrants on them or something. So if he asks me, if he arrests me on these warrants or whatever, at least I won't have the drugs on me. They won't catch me with those. And so that's why you have to be very careful. And even when you're in Walmart, even when you're in Ingles and different places grocery shopping, I know I try not to live paranoid, but before you run your hands into the shelves and pick up stuff, I always try to look around, just to make sure there's nothing laying there on the shelf.
You're aware of your environment.
I'm very aware of my environment. And when I go to restaurants and eat and things of that nature, my wife will tell you there's certain ways I want to sit and certain places I sit and certain areas I sit in just to give me the better tactical advantage in case something happens.
Very strategic.
Yeah. So, at law enforcement, that we're kind of all guilty of that. But there's nothing wrong with knowing your surroundings, knowing your environment, and just watching, especially where you put your hands, just watching where you reach for things. But if you get into fentanyl or touch fentanyl, the reaction can occur and can be devastating, can be catastrophic in less than 5 minutes. So.
Has fentanyl already been found in our area?
It has, and like I say, we have, there's different forms of it. Like, for example, the hospital and medics and people who do medical treatment, they use liquid fentanyl, and it's kind of the same kind of aspect as morphine. When you have a severe injury, if you have a broken femur on a wreck or something like that, where a person is in extreme pain, they will give them fentanyl injections to kill that pain. It's a pain medicine. It's an opioid. And so, there's a proper way to administer things, and people with training knows how to do that. So there's always fentanyl in the area. The fentanyl patches have been around a long time. People who are, have chronic pain, they have these patches that they can put on. It's slow release, and so it's kind of putting fentanyl in their system at slow paces to where they can manage that chronic pain. Right. So it's been around for a long time. But what we're seeing now, the dangerous aspect of this, is where people are getting hold of that liquid fentanyl or taking those patches apart and dealing with that and drying it out and it becoming a powder form. That is the most dangerous form of that. And so that's crept over into the drug world to give them that extra high, to give them that extra something, And so it doesn't necessarily overdose them when they take it because they've built up a tolerance to the drug. Right. Their systems have built up a tolerance. But then when someone who doesn't use drugs or doesn't use pain medicine comes in contact with it, it overloads the system until it ultimately overdoses them and they die from it. So we just want that PSA out there so people understand how dangerous it is and not to deal with it. So
the people that are converting that to powder, is that coming from a medical field or is it a street drug?
It's a street. People. Typically what you see is people either breaking into ambulances or to hospitals or doctors' offices and stealing the liquid fentanyl It's liquid fentanyl you can't get by prescription. That's something
Okay.
that's only can be administered by doctors or medical staff. But people will steal this, steal shipments of it, things of that nature. Once it hits the street, then they go through that conversion process and convert it to that liquid fentanyl to a powder form. Those are typically done in backyard labs,
Right.
not necessarily lab because there's not really a process. It's just drying the liquid out of it. But of course, people who do that have to take safety precautions as far as respirators and gloves and suits and all those kind of things, or they'll overdose and die. So there's a whole process for that. But then once it gets mixed with the heroin and other drugs and hits the street, then it becomes more and more cut and diluted. So you have less and less amounts of that and less precautions that people are using with it.
It's amazing to me because this is kind of like a scientific, a chemistry type thing.
Right.
There are so many smart minds that have figured out how to do this
Yeah.
and have, I hate to say, but wasted talents.
Well, that's like methamphetamine. I've said many times over the years. There's a whole history behind it. We could spend 30 minutes on talking about the history of methamphetamine. I used to teach those classes, but when you think about back in, especially the 60s and the 70s, when the biker gangs were basically making the biker dope, the Nazi method, and they were trying to get the methamphetamine going on the street and all that, they actually hired chemists and hired pharmacists to do all these extractions and figure out how to do it. They'd pay these people to do it. But my point is, somewhere along the line, somebody somewhere has got to said, hey, let's put a little brake fluid in this. Let's put a little